Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to this month's LinkedIn Loving Live, where we're shining a light on the world's leading B2B social media platform that is, of course, LinkedIn. And today we're talking all about thought leadership on LinkedIn. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, thought leadership seems to be a term that just gets bandied around a lot. But, what actually does it mean? What do we mean by thought leadership? So I'm absolutely delighted and extremely lucky that we're being joined today by Julia Satter, who is a LinkedIn ghostwriter who's going to explain to us what is thought leadership, what do we mean by it, why we need to be thought leaders on LinkedIn, and just how do we go about becoming thought leaders on LinkedIn. So hello, Julia, and welcome to this LinkedIn Loving.
Hi, Judy. It's so nice to be here. I am so happy you invited me on your show.
I'm delighted you agreed to come on. It's fantastic. Thank you. I'm really excited for this. So just before we start, if you are new to these Lovins and wondering what the heck they are short, bite-sized LinkedIn learnings over lunch. And each month I'm joined by a guest expert to share their expertise on subjects to help support your LinkedIn activity and results. Now, I do like to make these Lovins as interactive as possible. So if you do have any questions, please do put them in the comments box. And we will come and answer those. But we do have a little question for you already. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So do you see yourself as a thought leader? And do you know what it means? So we don't need, war and peace, but, yes or no answers would be fantastic. And we're going to crack on now with the, and hear from Julia, because nobody wants to hear from me. So Julia, what exactly do we mean when we say LinkedIn thought leadership?
Yeah, it's basically your professional opinion about the subject matter that is what the area that you work in. Just that. It's actually quite simple. Like we all have professional opinions because we have experience in the field that we're working in. And so it's about bringing that to making that opinion visible so that people can get to know us. And that opinion positions us as subject matter experts or as thought leaders.
Do you know what? That is just so simply and beautifully well explained. I love that. Absolutely love that. And it's interesting. We're getting a few people saying, yes, they know what thought they see themselves as a thought leader, and they know what it means. So Teresa, lovely here, bless you. Not keen on putting your head above the parapet. No, totally. Took me a long time to get used to that as well. And Kate here doesn't, but would like to become a thought leader. Now, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose sometimes people may not see themselves as thought leaders, but actually they already are. Because I wouldn't see myself as a thought leader, but some people might say, well, you do know a bit about LinkedIn, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think we all are. We just need to differentiate like opinions from professional opinions, right? Because everybody has an opinion and it's not necessarily valuable unless it's on something that they're an expert in, or have worked in. And so the more experience you've gathered in a specific field, the more valuable your opinion is, and the more you can play with that in your content. So you can reference back to how things used to be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, compared to now. And that already positions you as somebody that has deep knowledge. But yeah, we have to, like, the big thing about thought leadership is differentiating between opinions that are based in experience and opinions that are just based in opinions, right? And so the ones that are just opinions that aren't backed up by any experience are not valuable, and we should refrain, I think. Depends on the context, but when we're speaking about thought leadership, it's about subject matter expertise based on our expertise. So yeah. Definitely.
Wonderful.
I think everybody is a thought leader in some area. Or can be.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love that. I love that indeed. And so why do we need to be seen as thought leaders? Why is it important?
Well, we want to be seen as a reference, as an expert that people go to, and especially depending on our fields, but also because if we're entrepreneurs, we want to get hired, we want to book new clients. And so in order for people to want to work with us, they have to trust that we're going to be able to deliver. And the way that we show our expertise is through, thought leadership type pieces. It means, people will trust us more when they see that we know what we're talking about, basically. And and also
what we're talking about.
right. And also for people who are working within companies, like the more senior your position becomes, the more important it is for you to show up, not just as a thought leader, but as a leader in general. And you need to do that publicly so that, and you want your brand to, like, publicly and inside, your work environment to match. You don't want to be one person publicly and a different person behind the scenes. So you
I love that. And I suppose it is about being visible and standing out there, and also because there's a lot of people who do similar things or exactly the same things as you, isn't it? So it's about, I suppose it's a differentiator at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a differentiator. And it's basically what we're doing is amplifying word of mouth. So people who already know us have a good opinion of us. They've probably left reviews. They probably trust us very much. They probably refer us. And so this is taking it to the next level. It's just amplifying all of that. And so for a lot of us, it's scary, especially at the start, but it's nothing more than just amplifying that word of mouth, because most of it happens in a very quiet context or very behind the scenes, and nobody really knows about us. And so the whole reason is to make it a little bit more public, so it's easier for people to find us and know us.
Exactly. We don't, if we're in business for ourselves, the last thing we want to be is the world's best kept secret, isn't it?
That's right.
I quite like this this comment from Warwick here. He says, I have some expertise that I can share, but look for others to consider me as a thought leader. So I kind of get that, because I wouldn't see myself as a thought leader. Is it more about other people seeing you as a thought leader?
I'm not sure I'm not sure what does that mean. It's like you're looking for approval. Is that what you're talking about?
That's a good point. Yeah, perhaps it is. Perhaps it is. Maybe that's a bit of a confidence thing. It's like, well, do we just own it? We've just got to own our expertise, basically, really, is what you're saying.
And if there are peers in our industry that we consider thought leaders, then we can engage with them. If they're industry peers and they're, or industry adjacent peers, like that we consider them thought leaders, we probably are too, so we can engage with them. But I wonder if this question is, like you said, like a confidence thing, needing approval or validation, or is it something else? Because you'd approach them differently, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. So we now know what it is and why we need it. How do we go about doing it on LinkedIn? And I mean, for me, obviously, it's the number one platform to be visible, is LinkedIn. So how do we actually go about being a thought leader?
It's super easy. You just, at least the way I see it, it's super easy. You just answer frequently asked questions. You just start with those. What questions that prospects ask you before hiring you, or what questions do clients ask you, or employees or work colleagues, or what questions do people ask you about your industry knowledge? And so you put those questions out there publicly so everybody can benefit from them. So I think that's the easiest starting place right there.
I love that. I feel like, that feels like that the live is done, because that is the biggest. So that's what we need to be doing, folks, going in and answering all those frequently asked questions. Woo-hoo. I think that's fantastic. Wow, thank you. So I suppose that comes to, obviously, we're answering those frequently asked questions by posting on LinkedIn.
Of course.
And of course, that opens up another sort of can of worms, isn't it? So if we are creating thought leadership content, which is going to be around answering those frequently asked questions, we then need to make that content engaging, don't we? Because it's got to be visible, it's got to be seen, and stuff. So what do you find as the best way to make our content engaging on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I think we would look at this whole process in steps. So first of all, frequently asked questions. Let's just make a list, like open a Google Doc and just make a list of the frequently asked questions. And then we can plug them into Google and see what other questions people are asking, and just create just a nice little archive of questions that we're going to use as inspiration. And then the ones that we find most interesting, we start there. So that's the planning stage, step number one. And then when it comes to actually making content engaging, there's several aspects, but the most important one, I think, or one of the top priorities, is the hook needs to be really good.
Yeah.
So it needs to grab people's attention, because if that hook is weak, people aren't going to read your content no matter how good it is. They're just not going to do it. And
Scroll
so
past.
yeah, and it's not that your content isn't valuable, it's just you didn't know how to grab attention, and writing hooks is a skill. It continues to, like, it's something, even with AI and everything, like, you still need to be good at writing hooks, and it takes time to get that,
So 100%. And I think there's a couple of things, first of all, because what you've just said about the planning stage and having, so anybody who's ever stuck for content, you shouldn't be stuck for content, because you've got all of those questions that your clients ask you, and then you can plug that into Google to see what else, because Google gives you some other suggestions, don't they? So first of all, anyone struggles with creating content, tick, there you go. That's where your content inspiration is going to come from. But then we're talking about hooks. So just to be clear, how do you describe a hook? What is a hook?
It's like, if you read a newspaper, for those of us that remember those days. No, it's the headline. It's the headline of an article that makes you want to read it, that you're like, oh, I'm interested in that subject, And so those headlines are planned carefully to make you want to read the article. And whether it's in print or digital, it works the same. And that keeps getting, like, the art of hook writing keeps getting better. It applies to email subject lines. It applies to everything, right? And so hooks that are compelling need to be, like, the sentences need to be short. On LinkedIn, we have quite a bit of space to write a hook, compared to, like, an email subject line where you want it to be a lot shorter. But you want to, and so you can use, like, up to maybe even 3 sentences within a hook for LinkedIn, but you want those sentences to be short. So 9 words potentially, because the longer the sentence, the harder it is for our brain to process when we're scrolling, and we're probably not going to put the effort in. And the reason why hooks are so important is because it's going to get new eyes on your content, because people that are already people that are already in your network, they value your opinion. They're going to click on your post no matter what. But if you want to get new eyes on your content, it has to be interesting to them, to people that don't know you yet and don't really have a reason to stop.
That's fantastic. And apologies, I don't know why my internet is going down. I'm having problems. And let me just do a LinkedIn. I'm doing a LinkedIn live, and I'm going, So I'm still here. Hopefully, just carry on, Julia, if I disappear. So apologies, everybody, about that. But just to mention that you have a fantastic freebie, Julia, which is 10 irresistible LinkedIn hooks, which we will put as a link after this LinkedIn live, that people can pick up and get your lovely ideas. I've got a copy already. There's some fantastic hooks in there. So we'll put that as a link, so people can go and get those hooks. But it is so important, isn't it, to grab people's attention? And it is an art. It's that above the fold thing, isn't it? Why would you buy one newspaper versus another? Depends on what's going to grab your attention, isn't it?
Yeah. So and one of the reasons, I was going to say, one of the reasons I love LinkedIn is that it's still very much copy based. Yes, the images need to be compelling and everything, but it's not like other platforms, which it's all visual, and the words need to be spoken within a video, which, again, those are hooks too. But I like the fact that on LinkedIn, the hooks are written. You can write them down and they work really well still.
Do you know, Julia, that is so interesting that you said that, because it is content. I remember, I've been doing this 12 years, and I remember when I first started doing LinkedIn, there was a lot of marketing people who didn't like LinkedIn because it wasn't visual. And I kind of like that content. I think, it's just I'm not a visual person, so I've always liked it. So it just amuses me that we probably think similarly there. Although I know you do a lot of some fantastic visual content as well.
Yeah.
So anybody has a question for Julia, it would be fantastic. Please do pop them in the chat box. It'd be, well, I say the chat box, the comment, but we can answer those questions. But hopefully everybody understands, you know, what we mean by a hook. So anything else that we need that you think of for that engaging content? We've got the hook. They've clicked onto that all important more button because that sends a signal to LinkedIn that people are interested. And then we can give them our thought leadership expertise.
Yeah. And then the dwell time. I'm pretty sure that pretty much any platform tracks the time people spend reading your content. So just clicking more isn't enough for the algorithm to consider your content valuable. It's the amount of time people spend reading it. So a way to make your content really easy to consume is to make sure each post is short. And by that, I mean like up to 170 words or like 500 characters, maybe, I can't remember, but less than 200 words, extremely well formatted. So short sentences and lots of, you know, white space so that when you're reading it, especially on mobile, it's not chunky, it's not difficult to read. You can easily scan the main points of the post and kind of capture its essence. Because most of us, we just scan content nowadays. We don't actually read it, especially on social media apps and especially on our phones. And so the reason why I suggest keeping this content to between 150 and 175 words is that it isn't going to occupy more than one screen on your phone. So people don't have to scroll like 5 times, you know, because when it's that kind of a long post, new people are not going to invest the time. Now your engaged audience will, but if you want to capture newer viewers, then you have to make it really valuable and easy to consume. So it has to be, on one side, what you deliver has to be actionable, or have some kind of value, and then extremely easy to consume, so that people actually digest it. They can.
That I love that, because LinkedIn gives us a stat that 70% of traffic to LinkedIn is on the mobile, and so people need to be able to read it, as you say, skim read it from a small screen. And I'm terrible. I like a nice big screen, you know. I'm a bit blind, I like my glass, you know, and I find that you know, big chunks of text, I can't read it, and I'd switch off from it. Totally switch off. The really nice short paragraphs work really well. But I think what you said though about not making it too long so that people aren't scrolling the actual post, because I think you can do really long posts on LinkedIn. There's something like 3,000 characters that you can have in a post, which is massively long. But I find that way too much to read. I kind of get bored halfway through. You've got to be really good at content writing, presumably, to keep people engaged for that long.
Yeah, so I think anywhere between 550 and 750 characters if you're counting characters, and there's apps that'll do that for you, but you want to keep it short. And if you really want to add that much value or write a longer post, then you can create a LinkedIn newsletter or LinkedIn article. And so, yeah, which is a totally different ball game, but also definitely worth, you know, investing.
Worth doing, definitely. But I think there's a lot. I think what we've got with LinkedIn posts, that short form content, we've got a lot of space that we can play with and we can do with. But it's just, like you say, remembering that we're doing it for the algorithm and also for how people can view it on the mobile. And, you know, rather than, we are writing for our audience, but we've got to think about those things as well, haven't we?
Yeah. And if you think about like how you everybody uses their phone, I suppose, differently. But for me, I'm always using my phone, whether I'm walking when I'm walking the dog, when I'm grabbing a coffee, that's when I'm scrolling on my social media feeds. And if I'm walking my dog and I see an article, I'm not going to read that. It's and plus, like it's been studied, like we get dopamine hits off of this. So like, it needs to be something that, that produces this dopamine hit, this like reward, like, ooh, I got something valuable, like a little tip that, or a new insight or a new way of looking at this. Yay, I got my little dopamine hit, and I'm going to come back later for another one. And if it doesn't deliver that, then you're not going to come back to that content. So
That is really interesting, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And that's how you continue to get an engaged audience, I guess, isn't it? By continuing with that dopamine hit. Helen's asked a question here about how important is the photo, the picture, or does it detract from the headline hook?
No, it complements it. So especially on mobile, when you're scrolling, the photo is going to take up a good chunk of the screen. And so it's going to make your headline harder to miss. Because if you just do a text post, it's just a couple of lines and then you're onto somebody else's post. But if you have your hook and then a very good image, then those are two hooks. You've got a visual hook and a written hook. But on LinkedIn, because sometimes I associate LinkedIn to Facebook just because the copy, it shows up above the image. So that copy needs to be very compelling. If you look at Instagram, first you see the image and then the copy, and it's almost nothing and really hard to read. So it's different. So you have to think about the copy, and then the visual is also another hook. So it's important. It has to be high quality. It needs to be interesting to the viewer. So no stock images, please. Everybody stop posting stock images. Nobody stops to read your post because you added a stock image. They're going to stop and read your post if it's something about you, behind the scenes, a little bit more context about who you are, what you're doing, those kinds of photos, which are easy to take, really.
That's fantastic. I love that as well. So all the photographers out there, we need real I mean, you don't even need a photographer, do you? You can have selfies of yourself, although I'm rubbish at taking my own selfies and things. So I think because Teresa here was asking the same question, what about visuals? So I think we've pretty much covered that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the same. Visuals, like just no more graphics, no more stock image. Like the graphics, if they're going to stop the scroll, they have to be really high quality, and you have to be almost a designer to produce them. But like the templates that were popular 7 years ago on Instagram, those aren't going to work here anymore. There's a couple of graphics that influencers use and across the board on LinkedIn, which are the Twitter screenshot. And then there's another one of a book with some lines highlighted in yellow. I don't know if you've seen them, but I pay attention to them. Like all the big influencers are using this as a way to stop in their templates, and you can replicate them. But you can try and test them if they will work for you. But if you're not an influencer, it might, you'd have to try. But I think that when you use a photograph, it's just more interesting to your audience, especially because you're building a personal brand. So it has to be about you. And
exactly. And I think that's a really good point. It is about a personal brand. And I think a lot of people, do they complain? A lot of people comment, let's say, maybe rather than complain about how many pictures, there's lots of posts with pictures of yourself in it, whether it's a selfie or something like that, because it is about being seen and being recognized and building that personal brand, especially as a solo business owner. That's what we're aiming to do, isn't it?
Yeah. And people want to connect with you. Like those pictures create an emotional connection for the details inside the picture. So for example, not too long ago, I posted a photo of me and my dog was in it and she was posing. She did such a good job and people loved it. And so people connect over the fact that they also are dog owners. Simple as that. Other times it can be they connect with the fact that you're working out of a coffee shop and you like that environment so that you can get out of the house. So just very simple details about what shows up in the photo that's not necessarily you is what's going to get people's attention and make them feel like, oh, I do that too. Or, and it creates that emotional connection where they start to like you, right? Because we have to build those know, like, and trust factors. Yes. So the thought leadership helps with the trust, but then they also have to like you and feel like they know you, which happens through that more, emotionally relatable content.
I love that, Julia. I really do. So we can actually now understand how it all fits together, because we've got our thought, the expertise post, but then the personal bit, the personable bits, I like to call it, is helping to build that I like you and know you kind of stuff. And I think that is so important. Adam's asked a question here, which I think is really interesting. He's asked, would you recommend creating a post for mobile first?
Yes. Yes, always.
Short answer.
Yes, I can't stress I can't stress how important that is. Like that is always your first priority. And so there's an app out there. It's called TypeGrow app. It's free and it lets you
Oh,
preview your text on mobile. Like it lets you preview what the LinkedIn post is going to look like on mobile. And so then you can see like how long are my sentences, because when you're on your desktop, you write 2 sentences and it looks like there's plenty of space. But then you look at the mobile version and it's like, whoa, that's a dense paragraph. And so really, I always, 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 when I'm creating content for my clients and for myself, always I preview it on mobile. Like, and I'm like very strict about it because I want people to read the content.
that is really useful. And I love a free app.
Yeah.
Being from Yorkshire, I like anything that's free. What did you say it was called? Maybe we can put it in the comments box.
I'll put it in the
later.
comments. Yeah, it's TypeGrow.
TypeGrow. Thank you. We can all go and have a look at that, and now be writing our profiles. But we probably need to write that for mobile as well. Writing our posts for mobile as well. Fantastic. Thank you. So one of the things, time's flying as it always does on these. So fabulous tips on actually getting engagement on our post there, Julia. Thank you so much for that.
Amazing.
I just want to touch on before we finish about repurposing content. Because a lot of times I will speak to people and they're not really sure about what to do write on LinkedIn, although now it's going to be easy to tell them what to do. But often they'll be posting on other social media platforms and think that they can't use that content on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I always see LinkedIn as just being part of your overall content strategy rather than a separate channel in itself.
Yes. So just to know, I wasn't able to comment inside the chat because I have to connect it to YouTube. So I put it in your private chat, but we can add it. I'll add it later.
Yes. Yeah. So so we can't do it from here, unfortunately, through StreamYard, but we will add. Promise everybody, we will put the link to the TypeGrow after we've finished.
So for repurposing, that's one of my favorite topics. Let's see. So it depends where you're creating content. Like a lot of founders, they might be, you might be interviewed for somebody else's podcast. You might, like somebody might write an article about you. You might deliver a presentation. And then you might also be posting on other social media apps. My other favorite one is Instagram because it's just so fun and relaxed and visual. But what you want to do is you have to think about what does LinkedIn prioritize versus other platforms. And I can make a comparison with Instagram because that's the one I know better. But so Instagram really prioritizes humor and relatability because that's what people share with one another, which it means like we're competing with dogs, cats, horses, cows, parrots. Like I follow them all. That's what I send to my friends. And so it's a lot harder to get people to share your content on Instagram, but if it's thought leadership type stuff, right? But on LinkedIn, we have the advantage that LinkedIn prioritizes thought leadership. And so it needs to show that you have industry knowledge. So you need to show through experience that you know what you're talking about. And so any of the content you've created for any other platform, whether it's a blog, a podcast, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you want to look at it through the lens of thought leadership. Like, how does it show that I know what I'm talking about? And you frame it from there, especially focusing on the hook and all the other things we mentioned.
I love that. Absolutely love that. That is a fantastic tip there, because I often, see people that will post the same post using some kind of scheduler. Not that there's anything wrong with schedulers, but they don't think about it's the same post that goes to Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn, and there's no kind of like, it's just generic in a way. Adam and Fraser have very kindly been able to find it. So typegrow.com. Thank you, Teresa and Adam. It is typegrow.com if anybody wants to go and have a look at that. Thank you very much indeed. So can you believe it? We're like a minute to the end now. And you've already, my last thing I was going to ask you is any top tips to finish on, but I think you've given us so many. It's been unbelievable. I can't thank you enough. Obviously, we can find you on LinkedIn, Julia. We will put the link to your LinkedIn profile in and also a link to those 10 irresistible hooks on there. And I know obviously that you work with people helping, because a LinkedIn ghostwriter, you help with them with their LinkedIn content. So if anybody needs any more help, they know where to come.
Yes. Oh, and I'd love to let your audience know that I'm launching a podcast. I'm very excited about it. It's called LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs, and the first 3 episodes air next week. So you can go and look for it in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's already listed. There's a little trailer episode up. So
how exciting. Woohoo. Well, goodness me. So we can get even more tips and stuff from you by going there. And stuff. Well, I thank you so much, Julia, for joining me today. Well, can you believe it? We're on the hour now. And to everyone else, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those who catch up with the replay, we shall see you next time for next month's LinkedIn Lovin'. Bye for now.
Bye.